And start balik apa? From top. From top
1, 2, 3 action. What is up guys? Fahan here with Za once again, and today we have a special guest with us. Okay, it's like so-called our idol lah. Before there was digital media, social media.
There was print media.
Print media. So Encik Zaihan here, he's the pioneer lah for reviewing motorbikes.
Motorbike reviewers.
Yeah.
You guys make me sound old.
Yeah, and us bikers, we simply know him as TNP's biker boy.
Yeah.
He's not a boy anymore.
I've been following him since I was in school, you know. Even before I got my license, I was like following him, reading all his articles about all the bikes that he reviewed and, you know, his travels. Simply, it's an honor to meet him in person.
Thank you very much for inviting me here too.
Just a bit of info, a bit of background. Encik Zaihan actually started bike reviews column on the new paper at May 2006, according to sources. Then he's reviewed hundreds of bikes. Specifically, how many?
Each year, I think there's about 25 new bikes that I get to test.
Wow.
I was calculating this morning. It's probably around the range of about 300 to 400, around that range. And you get confused because almost every 2 years, 3 years, with development and so on, new bikes will come into the market. But the interesting bit is that the new bikes come with the latest technologies where we get to enjoy.
Definitely lah. And also he's traveled the world to ride, including North Korea. So later we get to that. And then collaborated with stakeholders within the motorcycle industries lah. So usually you'll be interviewing people lah, but today we interview you.
Reversal of roles, yes.
It's the first for you.
So like any other interviews with motorbike enthusiasts, the question we want to ask first is, how do you get onto motorbikes? How do you get started on motorbikes?
Well, it's quite embarrassing. During my time, many years ago, you can get your license at the age of 16. That means at Sec 4, you can own a motorcycle, right? So in my school, some of the rich boys, they were straddling their bikes and coming to school on their dirt bikes. Oh, I felt very, envious, very envious. And back then I didn't have money. So I took the first step, took my riding license, saved the recess money, and got a license. Unfortunately, I didn't have the permission. Malay families, parents play a big role when it comes to allowing their sons or daughters to ride motorcycles. So, in short, my father, who was a rider, said yes to me personally, but my mother said no. But when I confronted the both of them, my father changed his and said, "No, I didn't agree to ride bikes." So it was really very difficult. I had to apply for a job at one of the fast food restaurants as a pizza delivery boy. Unfortunately, after receiving the uniform and so on, my mom found out, and she said, "No, return everything." I didn't get to own a motorcycle. It led me down this path where friends would lend me their motorcycles and so on, but there was this fire. It ignited this fire.
So last time, I just curious, last time the motorcycle, when you want to take your license, last time the L plate can ride outside, right?
No. That was my dad's time.
I see. Okay, you're not that old lah.
I'm 51 this year, bro.
51?
Yeah, 51.
Oh, okay.
Okay lah, not that old lah.
Not that old lah.
How do you pick up journalism? Was it a childhood ambition of yours?
You see, I'm not good in math, but I've always been curious by the story behind a story. If you give me time, I think I'm good enough to find out some of the important things in your life, and I think I can make you share it with me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but given if I know your background, you'll be much better. And I've always had this curiosity. I had the opportunity to go to the University of Hawaii. I chose journalism, and I wanted to be a photographer, not a reporter. Yeah. But unfortunately, when I joined the new paper in 1999, within 2 or 3 years, my boss back then said, no, degree holders must also be able to write. From then on, it was mostly writing. It's an adventure in itself because the challenge of finding information is one thing, and I feel like I've never had to work a day in my life doing what I do. But I have to clarify now that I'm in the Straits Times, 20% of what I do relates to two wheels. The rest, I work as a crime reporter.
Alamak, takut.
So how do you get into writing and reviewing motorcycles? How did it all started off?
Sometime in 2005, the newspaper wanted a revamp, wanted to change the Sunday newspaper. The editor then asked me, or rather he gave me a challenge, find out what is the most guy thing, something that would appeal to guys. So somebody suggested cycling, but I said, no, it's not rock enough. It has to be something punchier. I said motorcycles. And he stood for a while. I think a few days later he came back to me, he said, go for it. Start simple. Reviewing products. And they knew my passion for motorcycling. But it's different when you take something you love and you put it in print or tell a story where hopefully others would be able to connect and share the same experience.
So because in the papers, you're not only dealing with bikers, but people who generally don't know about bikes, is it?
True. So we have to expect that the majority of the readers do not understand anything or do not share the passion as like how you share for motorcycling. So we try to avoid using terms that are known only to bikers, like power sliding. What does that mean? If you use them and you want to write a story about power sliding and how to execute it, then you have to explain it. So we try not to use
Too technical.
very technical
Terms
words.
lah. Yes. I mean, for us, we speak like regular bikers. I think only bikers would know.
I think even if I talk to any other biker, like, hey, my bike, or he probably will know what I meant. I've been following you since young. Reading all those bike reviews. So how do you see the future of motorcyclists or automotive journalism in Singapore?
I think for one, the question involves how do you see the future of motorcycling, right? Okay, I always feel that there will always be interested parties, boys curious to find out what's over the hill or what's across the causeway, and the cheapest form of transportation would be to buy a motorcycle.
Back then.
Unfortunately for now, recently, last 1 year, you look at COE prices going up to about $10,000. It makes you think maybe we've lost some potential riders, because it's the COE suddenly becomes a huge component of owning a motorcycle. But there's always the second-hand market. No doubt, a bit more expensive. I believe that if you love something, start first. Along the way, there will be ups and downs. It's cyclical. COE prices sometimes go up, sometimes go down. But many friends tell me this, if you divide that $10,000 over that 10-year period, you're paying about $1,000 a year. Those who have money can think that way, but those who depend on a motorcycle for work, living and so on, that might not be the case. It might be harder to own a brand new motorcycle.
The class 2 especially, like big boys toys like this, ARF is 100%. So this guy right here, the Pan Am, basically shot up to 53,000, is it? That's crazy.
In general, motorcycles that were about $30,000. Back then, you can get a 1000cc sports bike for about 30 plus. You're now looking at 40 plus, 50 lah. I mean, Continentals are even higher. But if it's your dream bike, are you willing to sacrifice?
I think it doesn't matter lah, because some people like Azizul he has a Ducati Multistrada and he breathes and lives Ducati. He will still get it no matter what. So I think it depends on the
You buy
individual.
a bike like that, immediately 10 years younger. You feel like you're 10 years younger. As the revs climb,
So North Korea, I just want to talk about that. Given that it's a hermit kingdom and it's strict laws for tourists, maybe you can share on how you got the chance to actually ride to North Korea and experience. How is it over there?
I think more than. Okay, let me look at the years. 1999, 2000 to 2003. During that period, I was heavily involved with the Singapore Motorsports Association. Today is known as something else. Back then, they were the association, the body that basically organizes races or makes sure that you are suitable and ready for international races, either regional in Malaysia or elsewhere in the world. So I was the competition secretary for motorcycles. Now, I think there was a period where they asked me, hey, do you think you could attend this? You'll be the only one in Singapore. And also because you're a reporter, why not write about it, write for a newsletter, and also maybe offer it to your newspaper, which I did. So once in a while, North Korea and South Korea would have this moment where
They're friendly.
they're friendly and they want to show that well, let's unite. Let's bring some guys over to North Korea. We do the same. And they invited about either 150 or 200 riders from around the world to basically ride from Seoul and to North Korea. But not through the DMZ. Yeah? We had to go eastwards and...
From China?
No. From Seoul, South Korea. Go right eastwards, take a ferry and come into this place called Mount Kumgang. And there are memories that I always keep. One, the roads are better than Singapore roads. Like I explained earlier, because only the military, government officials own cars. Most people don't own cars in the area. And what surprised me was you see the sides of hills carved with proverbs or sayings about their great leader Kim Il-sung, Kim Jong-il, and back then, yeah. So it's really amazing because someone must have taken a lot of effort to do that to a hill. Now, for me, one thing that I find it hard to forget was that the immigration process. 200 riders. My name starts with Z.
You're the last one, I assume.
So for 2 hours, I had to listen to this welcome Korean song for 2 hours, and I was the last guy.
Repeat and repeat.
Yes, it was a cycle. It was I think like a 3-minute cycle, and it repeated itself over and over again. Certain things are still sensitive. They don't like to see flags of where you came from. Like they don't like to see Japanese flags. They don't want people to talk about US dollars. This is North Korea. But for the Chinese riders from China, it's okay. They reach there, they put on their communist badge, and they were the first to be processed.
Brothers, China and North Korea are like brothers.
They are neighbors. So I found that amusing.
With a nickname like Biker Boy.
I didn't come up with that nickname.
How did the nickname come to
It was by a supervisor because I gave something long. He says zooming with Zai. That's too long, too mouthful. So I said, Biker Boy, enough. I said like, yeah, maybe a boy now, but 10 years, 20 years from now, I'll be an uncle. No, but it stuck. I think it wanted to share that in every one of us, no matter how old you are, there's a biker boy or biker girl in you.
That's why they say motorbikes are like big boys' toys.
Boys will be boys.
And of course, I'm sure you've owned like a few motorcycles in your lifetime. So maybe you want to share some of the bikes that you ever owned and which one you say is your favorite.
Okay, I've owned a Yamaha R6. I think it was a second generation. Aprilia 250, 2-stroke. DR400, the Enduro version. A few scooters. Honda XLR 200, which I've ridden to Phuket. Took a very long time.
Oh my god.
And several KTMs, basically mostly the off-road, the off-road version.
I see.
So my favorite, the one that gave that buzz, I must say it's the Aprilia RS250, like all two-stroke bikes. When you hit the power band at Pasir Gudang, my God, you're just holding on and
holding on to the life.
Yeah.
I love 2 strokes.
But no engine braking. You don't feel as you downshift. Very minimal engine braking. But I use the same bike for work too. So imagine riding that to work every day, pumping almost every day, pumping petrol fuel every day, and my camera bag is on the fuel tank, the plastic fuel tank. Yeah, so a lot of scratches and so on. But
shag to ride like that.
But fun I mean, it's a fast bike.
I think for me, I will get a bike that is comfortable and how to say
more forgiving. More forgiving.
Yeah.
I mean, that bike is because of the angle is like that, right? So obviously, when I was younger, the knees didn't factor. Now you ask me to ride a sports bike, I'll say,
and then you also did mention off camera that when we met the other day that you used to, your wife used to pillion you to go to KL.
To Malacca.
Oh.
And wow, I thought, I can get the hang of this, feeling rider and pillion as one, But as you accelerate, of course, she's afraid, right? Frightened, she will fall off, she will come closer. Now she will never put her butt on the motorcycle with me because it's uncomfortable. For her, it's uncomfortable.
Understand already.
I would have to trick her to go on a holiday and stand by a motorbike, and she has no choice, and she will then be forced to ride the bike.
You also mentioned you had a privilege of testing hundreds of bikes. Which one do you like most? I mean, which one is most memorable or your favorite one?
Okay, I'm reading this. I am intrigued by the street smarts, the technology in Continental bikes, because give it 10 years ago, in racing, of course, they would have cornering ABS and so on, but I don't think that was translated to the consumer market just yet. Now, almost as standard, you have motorcycles with quick shifters up and down. At one time, it was only up, not down. And it makes it more, you feel like a hero when you're riding, Oh God, man. Automatic ref matching, and you don't have to blip your throttle anymore. My R6 is everything it's like you do it yourself. Sometimes you get it wrong. So I like the technology that goes into Continental bikes. I don't like the price, but I love the technology. If you ask me where do I feel comfortable, it would be on smaller bikes. The bikes that everybody would ride each day. Because it's a true test. I mean, the majority of the population of motorcycles here, I think about 70% are riders who ride smaller bikes. If you look at registration records. And nowadays, with Euro 4 standards, right? ABS is standard. You have your diagnostics. It's something that you wouldn't think of maybe 2 decades ago.
Or even maybe 10 years ago.
Yeah, correct. So riding a motorcycle today, in my mind, is safer than what it was when I started out. Because back then, when you see an emergency, you first thing instinctively you grab the brakes, you will slide.
Yeah, but nowadays ABS and traction control, that will help I think.
To say a particular bike, I like the classic look of the Triumphs. I like the ferocity of the Ducatis and the BMWs. I started out on Harleys when I was in university in Hawaii. Bikes there were cheaper. So my first bike was a 1967 Ironhead Sportster where you had to kickstart.
Wow.
Kickstart,
Break your knee actually and drag pipes. So, but in their country, it was allowed.
I think Harleys in recent years they've come a long way. They've really put in a lot
in terms of technology. This is one of the best examples of moving away from the tradition to appeal to more younger riders. We had fun riding this. I mean, I initially, of course, everybody didn't think that, hey, can it make it? I mean, in the dirt and so on. But it was okay. No different than the other dual-purpose bikes, the adventure bikes that I've ridden.
Okay, so speaking of that, you have ridden the old bikes on the previous era whereby there's lack of riding technology. Would you prefer an old bike or a new bike, given that you like the two-stroke?
I tell you what, nowadays, if you go to Johor, occasionally they will have the classic bikes meet up. Everybody comes with their own scooters, Vespa, Lambretta, and dirt bikes from the 70s. The type that you kickstart and your 2T mixing is not good, you smoke up the whole place. But my eyes get attracted to bikes that are no more around. They can keep their bikes in Johor, in Malaysia. For us, because we don't see it, I'm attracted to the RD250, something from the past. But of course, when you talk about safety, you hope that every bike has this technology, the latest technology. And I'm in the middle. I like the look of the older bikes, the classic looks, the design, but the newer ones, they're the way to go, and they make riding safer. One thing, I've been riding since 1987. I've not had a single road accident on Singapore.
Serious?
Yes. I've dropped a bike at the car park. Yes.
That one jatuh bodoh standard lah.
Yeah, standard. But no accidents. But I've crashed numerous times on the circuit off-road track. That one biasa lah. And I've broken many bones.
So besides motorcycles, what other news or articles do you write about? You mentioned that you write about crime journalism.
Yeah. Like for me, I'm from the Singapore desk at the Straits Times. My specialty is crime news. Because I've been doing this for 23 years, the expectation is slightly different. We do not write, I shouldn't write from news releases or so on, but we spot trends, we do our own observations. If we think a crime is happening, of course we have to alert the police and so on. And sometimes ridiculous things happen in front of you and you can't even make it up. It's documented. You have your video rolling, your camera rolling, and you just go with the flow. And when it comes out and you feel that, oh, everything's out, you feel more relaxed, than when you're trying to get that story. Because there will be competition. People around you, if they get the story first, alamak, I won't say you waste your time, but you feel a bit sakit hati lah. Yeah. And some of the stories that I've done, they take a long time. Like recently, I think in November 2020, I did a story about, just to keep it short, a man with 5 spiritual wives. I mean, and in Islam, of course, that's not allowed and so on. But when I was first told about this, I didn't believe it. I said, why would a man want to keep 5 spiritual wives, and with the hopes of getting 13, But when I looked deeper into it, I realized that this guy has charisma to attract 5 women who are educated. I mean, these university degree holders and so on. And they do most things for him. They run his business for him and so on. To me, the fun part was the observation part. When you watch over a long period. On one of my first stakeouts, I sat close to where their location was, their shop was, and I waited for 1 hour. Nothing happened, and all of a sudden, this was at night. There was this bird dropping beside me, large, massive one. I looked up. I've been sitting under where a few pigeons were roosting.
Oh my god!
So it missed me. But in my mind, it told me, move out from here. You're not going to be safe because who knows? You're going to be round 2. They might poop again. But after 20 minutes, when I moved to a new location further back, I realized that the spot where I was sitting was where the subject I was looking at, had parked his car. If I had been there, I would have been noticed, and I would have been, people would be surprised. What is this guy doing with his camera down there? And they would have been alerted that probably I was watching them. Yeah. So in my mind, whoever was something was telling me to move away from the spot. Yeah.
So I'm just curious, in Singapore are the journalists here very competitive like those overseas, trying to get the story first and all that?
From what I can see from my younger colleagues, yes, there is this concern that you need to get the story out first. But it's not easy to do that. But the older journalists, they believe in, when it comes out, it has to be accurate. Don't worry about speed. Just make sure it's done properly. But in today's context, where you are against online news organizations and so on, there is a need to get it out fast. So again, it's the balance. Buka too much, real will slide. Close, no power. So yeah, but I am fortunate because for me, my story is slightly longer. And if it's an exclusive, I'm almost certain that no one's looking into this, so there's time to stretch it out a bit. This last part where I mentioned about certain crime stories where I do stake out, it helps me a lot when I get, let's say in that week, I've got a few test bikes. So I can appear on one day riding one test bike, I appear the next day on another test bike. So nobody will look at me and say, have I seen this guy before? Oh, it's a different bike. No one will. So I've done that a couple of times.
That's the beauty of it. Like me, for example, I review bikes regularly. Then sometimes I take out different bikes. Then people look at me familiar, but the bike different.
You change bike already, You change bike already, You know, I'm just curious, how do you get notified of a crime scene or a crime incident? For example, a suicide just happened. Then how did you suddenly somewhere in Singapore, somewhere over there, this crime scene?
This is the power of social media, that's one, or people that you know who will call you, your neighbors. Even your mother can be a newsmaker to tell you, hey, did you know this happened? I've had instances where my mother has done that. But sometimes, because, for example, if there's a motorcycle accident in Malaysia and that involves a Singaporean rider, there will be chatter. Someone will ask, some biking group in Malaysia will ask, look,
anybody knows this
Singapore guys, do you know this rider with this license plate? I've done a few of those where you track it through that way. But sometimes you are alerted by the authorities, police or SCDF or so on. But most times, our newsmakers, our readers will alert us. And on the rare occasion, your close sources whisper something and you say, I think I should check that.
So they get $50.
Let me see. Previously, they used to give out in the newspaper, if the story is good and it gets published, we used to give out a mobile phone. But not an iPhone or what.
Oh lah, cheap one lah, 3310 or something. That one how long, sir? So moving on from that lah, back to motorcycles. So I know COE has been crazy this past year, especially after the pandemic. So how can the motorcycle scene or community flourish despite that lah?
You see, there will always be good and bad times, and I've made, in the last 15, 20 years, I made friends with those in the industry. So you see different levels of how an increase in COE affects the distributor, affects the average rider, or your repair shop. But they're still in business. Yeah, you take a hit, but if you still continue and not close shop, you still continue with supporting bike events, you still, as a reporter, you still write about what's the latest. You keep the fire burning and alive. So for me, I think personally right now I do not own a motorcycle.
Which is surprising,
Because I feel that I'm doing this only in principle because I personally feel that's too high. I'm not going to pay for this. Even though if I think I can afford it, but no, I'll wait. But if you stay true to your dreams, to your passion of riding, whatever your role is or your position in this motorcycle community, I think it will autocorrect and you will find motorcycles as interesting as it was in my time. Although now, of course, anecdotally, distributors are saying that we are seeing repeat loyal riders. One rider who may decide to buy over the years 4 or 5 bikes, but they are seeing less of riders who come into the fold. So they want to attract potentially newer riders, because once you're a rider, hopefully it continues.
You always be a rider, That's what they always say,
So what is your advice for new riders out there who are still new to the bike scene?
One thing is safety, because you can do in most things in our life, you can sometimes just zone out and go on autopilot, but not motorcycling. I've seen the result of friends getting hurt. Some have died, maybe not because of their own fault, maybe to the fault of others. But when you ride, you must be super alert, and I don't know, for me, I ride like in a bubble. If I feel that this guy is too close, I'll go faster, I'll go in front, or I'll let him overtake. I don't like things that make me nervous if things are too close and so on. So that is just one part. I think I'm not seeing enough of riders using safety wear, you know. Yes, it is expensive. Your riding jacket, your shoes, your boots, your helmets and so on. And our weather is not that conducive. It's not as though you're riding in 15-degree weather in Europe or in Japan, you know. But sometimes I get surprises. I'll see a guy on a Phantom 200, but his attire is as legit as a guy riding a sports bike or a tourer. And I really respect that kind of guy. You know, like he's into I won't say sport, but he's into motorcycling, but he knows that there are risks, but I'm not going to make it even worse by not wearing safety equipment.
Yeah, remember guys, dress for the slide, not for the ride.
So personal preference lah. I mean, I don't even wear gloves or jacket lah. Yeah, only when touring I wear lah.
Previously, we interviewed Kak Nur Hasna, who happened to be a freelance writer for Berita Harian, and she wrote a lot about motorcycling and also overseas touring trip. Do you intend to write something about your trips in the future, or after this, do you intend to go for an epic road trip and then put it all in a book?
Well, Zah, I would love to do something like that in the future, but unfortunately right now, because I have two boys who are in, one of them is in primary and the other one is in secondary school. The fatherly responsibilities, they have to be fulfilled. But I've had suggestions by colleagues who say that you've ridden so many bikes, you've reviewed them, why not compile them into a book? I'm not sure whether anyone would want to read, but those are some pointers. And along the way, we've interviewed GP riders, Isle of Man riders, even the average person who sometimes, pop out because of some of the remarkable rides that they've done. And they can share with others how to do the ride safely, and what to be mindful of certain things along the way. I think it is something that I would definitely want to do, but maybe in the next few years, because riding, it's a journey. It's a long journey. It is not like you reach a point and you stop and that's it. I know everything about riding. No, I'm still learning.
We've come to the end of this interview, and just one final question, Cik Zaihan. What's next for the biker boy? You still continue to review more bikes, or maybe there's other plans for you in future?
I mean, in the last maybe one year or so, what I've done is something like the new paper focuses more on the profiles, the characters, the human side to motorcycling, plus some reviews. In the Straits Times, we fully write about motorcycle reviews. And now for me, I'm looking forward to a trip that's happening in July to go to Italy to attend the World Ducati Week. Hopefully it happens.
Yeah, take us with you. And also, I want to ask this this one is not on the script. What's your advice for us?
I love it when other people write about motorcycling, especially the younger riders. You see things different from us. Yeah, our challenges then definitely different from what it is today. All I can say is that carry on, even though it feels like sometimes like the odds are against you. You face some difficult, maybe distributor or so on. I have experienced all that when I started out more than 15 years ago, writing about motorcycles. But now it's slightly different. It is much easier, and I believe, if you continue with the fight, continue to write about motorcycles, and continue riding, there will be people who will approach you to see whether any collaboration is possible. Yeah. You are the next generation. My generation is slowly phasing out.
Yeah, I believe the same way. I know there will come a time that we have to pass the baton to the next generation. You know, because when one of us is already gone, the next generation has to continue the
Let me
passion.
share with you. I attended this ride 10 years ago or 15 years ago. I can't remember. It was wonderful. It was a ride through to Segamat. The end point was Segamat from Singapore. But we didn't use roads.
Kampung roads lah.
Fire trails and so on, logging trails. So there were about, I think about 15 of us. One of the riders back then, he must have been 75. I respect him because no doubt he didn't do crazy stuff like the younger boys. But at 75, he was still riding a dirt bike. To me, I respect him for doing that, and I hope that one day, you know, when I'm 75, I'll still be riding. Amazing.
Actually, me too.
Yeah, same. Age is just a number. It's the
But maybe on a three-wheeler.
A wheelchair. I feel that, you know, this is, I mean, off the record, but you all make yourself known. You got a following now already. The other following. Keep it going. It doesn't mean that everything you do must do with motorcycles, but it can be around the periphery, gadgets. You all do that too, right? Apparel and so on. Call the police. Ask them. Hey, we are from so and so. This road safety month or something. Can we, you know, let us ride with your traffic police?
I tried already.
What did he say?
No reply.
No reply.
and considering that he is a VSC,
I've ridden with their
ESP, the TL lah.
basically we go and they went to tahan people, and I asked them what did he do wrong and so on. So in just 1, 2 hour or 3 hour ride, he spotted like 19 or 15 violations. I'm thinking, my God, these guys are very sharp lah. Sometimes I think just need to ask. Sometimes they will reply, sometimes they don't. And like for me, I'm very big on road safety, especially when it involves motorcycles, because we know they're always like half of the fatalities. That's the sad part. I've ridden with horses too, against horses on my motorcycle.
Yeah, I saw that video, very funny.
I've ridden in my office too.
Yeah, I saw that also.
Those are fun times.
Yeah, those are fun times, man. And we are honestly honored to have you on the show lah.
will this interview or this experience be on the news, on the paper?
I don't know. It might. I can tell my supervisor and see what he says lah.
It'd be cool.
When you first told me, segan lah, alamak segan. Then I told my supervisor, I said, what segan? No lah, bring the company brand name up lah.
So in a way, it's a trade lah.
It's a win-win lah.
Win situation lah.
I mean, he okayed it lah, because if it touches on motorcycle safety, you know, a bit about the company, the Straits Times, about the passion of riding. I used to own 5 motorcycles at one point in time. At the same time.
I think bikes were cheap back then lah.
Yes. Mother asked, berapa motor kau nak ni? How many do you need to make yourself complete? I say, maknya suara dalam berapa? You want the same one every day? I say, kau lah.
That's a good one.
Dah nama biker boy, mestilah ada 5 motor.
In fact, it was my mother's nightmare when I told her, okay, I wanted to join Pizza Hut. I think it was Pizza Hut. She said no, right? Okay lah. I mean, you're afraid that your mother tak kasi her permission.
Tak bagi restu.
Yeah, and you feel that you don't want anything to happen on the road, right? But I made it worse. The more they said no, I went a step further. So after college, I worked at a rubber factory to make bumpers for ships. Saved enough for the first deposit, bought a Honda Steed 400. Then I went overseas, so they thought, nothing like no more already. I bought a Harley then. I bought 2. But of course, with whatever money I got back from those bikes, I gave to my mom, my dad, you know, because he was retired then. Then when I came back, I joined Singapore Motorsports Association. became the competition secretary. Oh my God. Every year we organize for dirt bikes, at least 4 races, off-road, MX race and so on. And then there's the Super Motard came later. Then Pasir Gudang is a regular Johor race series. My first job was a writer, photographer at Bike Asia magazine. My mother like, oh my God, you send him overseas, you come back, you work for a motorcycle magazine. I said, it's the same with journalism. You meet people, you interview people, you do design, page design, you take photographs. It's the same. But say, yeah, but why motorcycle? Why not? It's the same. Then I left that company, or the company folded. I joined TNP, the newspaper, and it got worse and worse. Everything got involved motorcycling, and it became a job, right? But she realized after a while that it is just something that I enjoy, that you cannot take that away from me. But you have to be responsible, lah.
Of course.
Definitely lah. Well, I wish that. Same with me also lah. Actually, my family also don't allow to ride motorcycles, but then I got deeper and deeper, and now like this already. We've been to Laos together. Alright guys, so we've come to the end of the interview, and once again Encik Zaihan, thank you so much for coming out.
It's my pleasure.
This interview, agreeing to it. And yeah, any riders want to review their bike with us, you can touch us on our social media pages below.
If you have any comments, feedbacks or suggestions, put them in the comment section. Like and share this video with your riding kakis, and don't forget to subscribe. And once again, we would like to thank 18 Moto for opening up this venue to us. Guys, do come down and check out what they have to offer. Don't forget to Don't forget to support us as well as our awesome sponsor, Liquimoli. Do check out their online store for a whole range of motorbike care products and use our promo code upon checking out.
Yeah, that's it for the vlog, and we will see you in the next one.
Give me all of your life.